What's up, friends? I'm Will,
I'm Panos.
and today we want to welcome you to our very first episode of Freedom or Bust.
So for the past few months, we've been traveling all over the place, sitting down with amazing people from all over the planet. Now, it's time to share with you their stories.
In our first episode, we sit down with Vernon, an amazing guy from Trinidad and Tobago, and hear his life story and get great advice that we were fortunate enough to get from him.
So sit back, relax, enjoy the video, and if you like it, just hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel as we have more episodes coming out every Friday.
This is Freedom or Bust.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode. I'm Panos. We have Will behind the cameras today, making sure that we sound good, we look good, our production guy over there. And today is a very, very special episode. First of all, we're back at the Farmers Branch location, the Saltbox. It is the perfect spot for you if you own and operate an e-commerce business or any type of business. So today, like I said, it's a very special episode because with us, we have a guy who's been in the States for more than 40 years, over 40 years? Almost 40 years. So we need to welcome Vernon. Welcome, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, really.
How you been?
I've been really just terrific.
Terrific?
It's nice being retired.
Oh, there you go.
And it's nice being able to pick and choose what you want to do each day, or even as the years go by. Now that I'm been retired for like 18 years.
18 years. That's a nice retirement.
Yeah, it's cool.
Sounds really good. So where are you from? Where you were born originally?
Trinidad and Tobago.
Trinidad?
Yeah.
That's the Caribbean, right?
In the Caribbean, but we are the southernmost island in the Caribbean. And we're only 6 miles off Venezuela.
So you can almost swim to Venezuela if you're a strong
Actually,
swimmer.
yes, we could almost swim. But because of the treacherous water,
Nobody does that, right?
People wouldn't swim it. No. But it's an interesting location, interesting place to have been born and grow up. And I don't know if you know this, but Trinidad was always considered the gem of the British Isles or the British Commonwealth, because it wasn't only located in a very strategic place that had an important role during World War II.
Oh, okay. So
But oil was discovered there. As a matter of fact, even before oil was discovered, Sir Walter Raleigh actually sailed close by and was able to get pitch to caulk his leaking ships. Because the most natural, largest pitch lake was discovered in Trinidad. And it's still in operation, actually.
Really? After how many years? When was that?
Well, just imagine Sir Walter Raleigh, he sailed around the 1600s. Yeah, and the pitch was there. But now it had been commercialized, of course, and industrialized, so that it had its own port and its own technical operations.
So can you describe for some of our listeners, what is pitch?
Pitch is asphalt, and it's what was used back in the day for paving roads. And now you get a blend of pitch and other aggregate that makes a surface. And also it is oil-based, petroleum-based. But it comes up naturally from the bowels of the earth. And it replenishes itself every day.
Every day?
That's why it's still in existence.
Wow.
Every day.
I didn't know that.
There's a show on TV presently called La Brea, or La Brea. It's spelled like that. And that's the name of the pitch lake in Trinidad, La Brea.
La Brea.
It means
Like the
that.
area in Los Angeles, La Brea?
Yeah, actually, and they're connected.
They're connected how?
The pitch lake in Los Angeles or California is connected underground to the pitch lake in Trinidad.
Really?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
How it's possible is not for me to really be able to describe, but it's part of the history and part of the function of what pitch is and where it came from. It's deep, deep into the earth. So the same way you have oil fields developing in all the different countries in the world, that goes way down deep beyond anywhere we can imagine, but they're all connected. So it's not so unusual after all. I mean, today we don't have to think about how it was formed and all kind of thing. We just know it exists and what it's used for and the riches you can develop from that. So that was part of the development by the British back in the day when they owned Trinidad and Tobago. Did you know that?
Yeah, of course. It was part of the British Empire.
Yeah. The English took over the island from the Spanish, and the Spanish took over from the French, and the French took over from the natives. So that island has made it's transgressed.
Through different empires, right?
Yes, as a matter of fact. So originally the natives in Trinidad were indigenous from South America, Guyana, Venezuela, the whole north coast of South America. So
Brazil also?
yeah.
Peru?
So a lot of the people in Trinidad actually came about because of the Caribs and the Arawaks. And the Caribs is where you get the name Caribbean from.
Caribs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And my grandmother on my mother's side had some Carib in here. So I might have a little bit of Carib in me as well,
Not just a little.
Just a little, just enough to feel that I belong. But incidentally, I mean, the British, having brought a lot of people back into Trinidad for indentured laborers, they brought them from East India and Africa. So they came in under a 5-year plan, each person, and they were promised different things after 5 years. A lot of them remained.
Talking about multi-ethnicity, right?
Yeah. They remained in the island. So I am a result of the East Indian and the African influence that were settled in Trinidad.
And it's a small island, right? It's not like
It's small, like about, say, as the crow flies, what, straight line? 60 by about 30. 60 along the length and 30 across the width. And it's an island, of course. There's the Atlantic Ocean, part of the north coast and the east coast, almost part of the south coast. And then you have the Gulf separating the island from Venezuela. So it's good water.
Yeah, absolutely, right.
Good water, actually. And we grew up just like that, just being
On the water.
on the water most of the time. Every holiday, every weekend, you have access to that. And even though I grew up playing a lot of sports, I wasn't a swimmer. All my sporting life, all my childhood and boyhood days
Was soccer?
spent basically soccer on land, climbing, and running behind the soccer ball and learning how to do that. Played cricket, which is typically East Indian based. Hockey, not ice hockey.
No ice in Trinidad.
Of course, no ice in Trinidad. Yeah, and we developed a lot of us as young kids developed into either athletes or technically developed people, because there was a lot of industry there to learn and understand what makes the country prosperous, so to speak. So oil was discovered, and a lot of the industry in Trinidad was oil-based, petroleum. Yeah.
Petroleum products also.
Right. So I migrated, I would say, to Canada as a result of having my experience in the oil.
Okay.
For 9 years I worked with Shell Trinidad. They had a massive refinery there. So I was fortunate enough to get into their program. It's called like an apprenticeship training program. So if you go to school and you don't go to a typical academic type high school where you spend 5 years, I started like that, but I migrated into a technical institute run by the government
Of Trinidad.
And I got to that school because I won a scholarship to go there. So I went to school for free for 3 years.
That's a big advantage.
And I chose that because back then we had to pay for high school. So being a child of a single parent, I just told my mom, I said, you know what? I think I might as well go to that school so I can get into the oil industry, and later on I can earn enough money so I can go abroad and study.
Talking about a smart kid, right?
Oh yeah.
So I got
Hold on. You were how old when you made that choice?
13.
13. I wish I was that smart at 13, right?
13. Well, yeah, and going through elementary school, I mean, I represented the school in track and field and soccer, academic, decathlon, and choir, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get to a point where, no, you need more than that.
Yeah.
So I chose this technical education. So we were doing like 14 subjects in order to become technically proficient so you could then get into industry. So as a result, one thing led to another. I played football, I played soccer, you call it, right?
Yeah. So
Played football.
in Europe, we call it soccer.
Yeah.
We will always call it soccer.
I kept doing track and field up to when I was about 18, thinking that one day my dream would be to play in the Olympics, to participate in the Olympics. So that was my ultimate dream. But it didn't come to fruition because
The oil industry just
yes,
sucked you in.
it sucked a lot out of you. And then I still wanted to pursue my career, which I started with Shell, Trinidad, in the electrical field.
Okay.
Now, my dad was in that industry as well, but he worked with the Electric Commission in Trinidad, and I'm with Shell, so I still wanted to pursue that. The only way you can do it really is leave the country and go abroad. Most people prior to my time went to England. Some went to the United States. But I chose to go to Canada because Canada opened its doors and said to people like me, we need you because we have a lot of industry here that need technically trained, proficient people to come in and help us develop.
So you just moved to Canada?
Well,
with
I
the
didn't
scholarship,
just
right?
move.
Okay. There's a story behind
I didn't just move. The story changed a little bit because in order to have the money to do so, I had to voluntarily retire.
Retire?
So I retired in 1967.
Wow.
And in the interim, I got married.
Okay. So the interim is in Canada, right?
This is in Trinidad.
In Trinidad. Okay.
Wait, so how old were you when you retired?
From Shell Trinidad.
From Shell.
Yes. So this was 1967. I would have been 67. I retired. Yeah,
So 25?
25.
You're 25 years old,
Yeah.
retired.
Well, I took early retirement.
Early retirement.
Just so that I could get the money that they were paying out for you to leave.
So it's basically a trick.
So-
it's a trick retirement.
Well, yeah, that's it. And some people say we are tricky daddians as a result. But yeah, I got a lump sum of money, took it, and I left. And I met my ex-wife, and we were dating for a few years. So everything was set up for me to move out, get my visa, go to Canada with a brand new wife that was pregnant. Now,
A lot of moving parts.
at 25, going to a strange country, strange weather, strange people,
A little different than Trinidad.
little
the weather
different
in Canada,
from
right?
Trinidad, and it ended up there anyway. So my first son was born there, and we went to Winnipeg. You can imagine Trinidad being 82 degrees in the shade.
on an average day, right? Because it will
Yes.
get way
Yeah,
hotter than
average.
82.
And then ending up in Winnipeg, Canada, 40 below zero.
Fahrenheit?
Yes.
Oh my God.
122 degrees difference.
That's brutal.
How did you cope? Like, what was
Well,
your first reaction?
In order to
the
cope with
cold?
that, I made a detour to New York City from Trinidad, spent 10 days there, buy clothing, try to get accustomed to the weather in New York, thinking, hey, it's cold. So
The
by the time I get to
40s,
Canada,
30s and 40s.
no
in
problem.
New York,
So I did that. But it was a different cold in Winnipeg. When they
because of
opened
the
the
wind?
door of the plane for us to disembark, I went back inside the plane. I refused to go down.
Fuck that!
Go
I'm
down
going back.
the plank, go down the steps. I refused to. Anyway, I'm having a pregnant young wife. You know.
What about her? Did she stay in the plane too?
She was just stunned, I guess. They didn't even anticipate this is what we're coming to. But we made a commitment. Here we are. No job, no house, young wife, pregnant. All we have is money and clothes.
You have to be really brave to do
But
that.
I had a cousin in Winnipeg that helped me throughout that period and decided, if you come here, you can stay with me for a few weeks till you find your own place. And we did. So we found a place, a house, we rented it. And we lived in Winnipeg for about a year. I got a job with Shell Canada as a result of my experience with Shell Trinidad, doing the same work. Installation, construction, testing.
Coming out of retirement.
So yes, and actually I retired to become unretired. Ended up in Winnipeg, migrated through job transfers to a different place in Ontario, Canada. And then from there, my goal was to go to Toronto because that's where the college was that I wanted to go to. So by the time I got to Toronto, I didn't have any money. So college was ruled out for a while. And then eventually, I got a job with the nuclear power station development in Ontario and worked in the first nuclear power station built
In
Ontario,
Canada?
In Canada. For about almost a year, doing installation, instrumentation, and things like that. All based on my experience, I was able to get in and be able to get a job quite quickly. But I had a lot of friends in Toronto because a lot of them had left Trinidad too and ended up there. Montreal, Toronto, British Columbia, wherever. So it was easy to assimilate, having a lot of friends in the neighborhood. So I ended up again forming soccer clubs, neighborhood, getting into coaching, got certified, so I became an accomplished certified coach, and had teams all over the province.
Underachiever, right?
Yeah, so I developed a lot of community clubs, and I played, and then ended up forming a league.
A league?
Yeah, a soccer league of only Caribbean players
In Canada?
in Toronto, Canada. We had about 8 teams, all Caribbean players. And I was the first person to have a team in that league. So I became,
Own the team? You mean own?
yeah. So I became player coach and founder.
And owner.
And founder, yeah. So it
Multitasking, and working at the oil industry at the same time, at the nuclear plant.
Yes. Well, that changed, and as things went, I ended up eventually going to college
In Toronto?
in Toronto, the same school I had planned to go to.
A man with a plan.
So I went there, studied engineering technology, just to extend my education and background, so on. And I really wanted to do that because I wanted to do something else later on. So that was what, 71 to 74? So my second son was born in 74. Just when I finished college, he was born. So I got a job with a company as a result within the same city. So I didn't have far to travel. Ended up doing product design.
Product design?
Yeah, for companies like the Alberta tar sands in Canada. You know what that is? The tar sands in Canada is a huge development, petroleum based, where they extracted oil from sand that was embedded in the earth.
Okay.
So in order for them to do that, they needed a lot of equipment and electrical equipment. so they could control the heavy equipment they needed to do their mining, so to speak.
So you were helping them build custom
Design
equipment.
equipment, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. The company I got a job with, right out of college, they were manufacturing equipment specific to the electrical construction industry worldwide. And they were the subsidiary of the largest company in the US. And the equipment they were manufacturing, I was familiar with it in Canada and in Trinidad. So it was a natural progression to be familiar with the equipment, know how to do the applications, how to wire them, how to make them safe for installation, because everything you did had to go in a hazardous location.
Of course.
Yeah. So
Because that's where all the oil is.
yeah. And then eventually I morphed from that product design area into developing the standards to manufacture the equipment. So I became the representative on the Standards Association in Canada for the company. So anything electrical that was manufactured for commerce, industry, even some residential like outlets and switches and so on, I was on the committee representing our company because we made those equipment and components. So at one time I was sitting on about 12 different committees, going to meetings and writing standards for the country.
And at the same time managing the soccer teams, right?
Oh yes, and playing.
And playing. Correct.
Yeah.
Coaching, managing, and playing
Right.
at the same time.
At the same time.
Any sleep at all during the day? No?
Not the daytime. No, nighttime mainly. Yeah. Daytime I was too busy.
Okay,
Yeah.
obviously.
No time to sleep. So it was a fun time. It was a great time to be alive and to have young kids and bring them up in the environment and teach them the things that I knew and get them interested in athletics.
Did you ever get used to the cold weather?
Only because I had to. When it changed, as the weather changed, I had to get used to the change and have enough clothing and the attitude to weather it, so to speak. No pun intended. But then eventually, it got to me and I thought, I don't want to live like this in this place anymore, So my intent was to either go back to Trinidad and work for the government and help them develop their standards bureau, because I was familiar with writing standards for the electrical industry. So I figured, maybe I should do that. I did apply. Didn't get the job because the government in Trinidad wasn't so functional or efficient at the time. So by the time I got the, come on, we'd like to interview you, it was the same day of the interview. So I never made it. I never made it to the interview because that was the same day I got the letter telling me they'd like to talk to me. So it was too late to make the move. So I stayed in my job.
In Toronto?
In Toronto. And kept working with this company until 1984.
This is the year you came to the States?
So that was the year I actually officially came down. But prior to that, I actually got my Social Security assigned in New York City. And this is
During the short time that you were...
This is going back a little bit.
Okay.
Because this is 1971.
That was the first time that you were in the
Just
States,
before
right?
I started to go to college,
Mhm.
months before, I went to New York City to spend 3 months with family and find some work to do because the nuclear power station in Toronto where I was working was complete. And I didn't want to move out of the city to go somewhere else. So being unemployed for a little while, I told my wife, look, we have a little boy. Why don't we go to New York City? I have relatives there, brothers there. We could stay with them for a while and then come back to Canada. So we did.
That was the first time that you went to the
So I
States?
went to New York and I applied for my Social Security, got it, got my card, worked in New York City, helping a guy develop a manufacturing company. He was making Afro combs. You know what that is?
Afrocones? No. You know?
Like picks?
Back in the day, picks.
Picks.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
I did all of his
You've seen like
manufacturing.
I'm sure like in a movie even like so you've got an afro and you got the pick. It's got the little pins and they use it to like
To fluff the hair?
fluff
Oh,
and
okay.
make it more
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
yeah.
So I had one of those.
It's a plastic thing, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. It's like a comb kind of.
Yeah.
There's like metal tips.
It's like a handle with just
Uh-huh.
prongs
Like
like
a
that.
fork.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
So this guy was developing a company to make them and sell them because in the 70s, afros were the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Ain't that true?
It still is in some
Well,
way.
in some ways it still is. So he knew I had electrical background. He said, I have equipment. I'd like to get them wired up and installed. So I did it for him, help him make Afro picks, travel all over the US, Washington, New York City, selling them.
in stores?
Yeah. He had some outlets and distributors. So we did that. Then I left that, put my brother in there, one of my younger brothers, and I went and worked with a publishing company in Manhattan. Customer service. I could talk, so they needed somebody.
Publishing is for
Books.
books.
And they took me on and said, we need somebody to talk to customers. Well,
I'm sorry, what year is that? 70?
71.
71. And that was in Manhattan, the publishing company?
Yeah.
So, how was Manhattan back then?
Manhattan was
Different.
different. It reminded me of what it was like in 1968 when I went there for a short time.
Mhm.
But I enjoyed it because I'm in New York. New
Better
York.
weather than Canada.
Yeah. And the weather was better. And it was summertime. Spring and summer. So I enjoyed myself there tremendously. The work was easy. It wasn't anything I had to strain my education background to think about doing. So I did it and had fun. And I started a soccer club there,
You started what?
a football club.
A football club in New York.
So I played for that
Do you
club.
have football clubs all over the planet
Everywhere.
or something? Okay.
That's the connection with me and everywhere I've been.
The football clubs.
Football. So I went to New York, I did that, and in 3 months' time I got the letter from the college, you are accepted. So that's when I went back to Canada in 71.
In Toronto.
Went to college for 3 years, finished in 74. My second son was born, and from 74 on, I just told you the rest of that story. So, from 74 to 84, I did standards development, product design, and standards development for 10 years. And I came down to Dallas and visited my sister in 82 with my 2 sons. They were little. 3 weeks. Met my present wife the very same day. I
The
landed.
day you came to Dallas?
And then this is before you got married.
You don't waste your time.
You met her.
I met her
on the first day here in Dallas, and then you ended up marrying her, and she's
we're
currently
sitting
your wife
here like
now.
this.
That's amazing.
My suitcase is there. I haven't.
At the airport?
No, in my sister's house.
Okay.
Right there. My sister is sitting there, and she's sitting there. She came to talk to my sister about a party, something they were planning. My sister introduced us. That was it. During that time, though, I was separated from my son's
Second wife.
mother.
The
My
second
first
wife.
wife.
The first wife.
Yeah, we were separated
Mhm.
for 3 months. So within 3 months, I met my present wife.
Wow.
So it took 2 years to be separated before you can get a divorce in Canada. So eventually, when the divorce came through in February, 1 week later, I was in Dallas. Sold the house, gave up all my coaching assignments, clubs, everything, gave away all my furniture, and flew to Dallas.
So the next question: how was Dallas back then?
Well,
Because now we know Dallas.
back then, I was a little bit tentative because we knew what the discrimination problems they were having in the US. Because I experienced some of that in Canada. Didn't even tell you. It was part of the housing problem in Canada that I had to report a company because I was being refused housing because of my skin color.
In Canada, right?
In Toronto, 1974, 75. And I had a friend of mine who I worked with from Scotland. He was living in this complex, townhouse, and I had to have him call the superintendent to find out if they have this townhouse vacant, and it was. And I called, and they invited me to come and take a look. And when I landed on the doorstep, the guy took one look at me and says, "Oh, I just rented it." So I went back and talked to my friend, and he went back again and asked, "Is this townhouse available?" And I told him yes. So I dialed the housing development people in the government, and they sent a representative over. Interviewed the guy with me standing right there. He was fired on the spot. I got the townhouse. We
Good.
lived there for a year.
Good. Good.
We lived there for a year.
You hear these stories and it blows your mind, but that's the way it was back then, right?
Absolutely.
And right now, you cannot even process that.
That was born in '94, and I guess that was past all of that because I've never really like experienced that
Well,
firsthand.
you never even imagined it happened, but it did. So
To
here,
everybody, not just you.
Yeah.
To everybody.
a lot of people. So the difference between the U.S. and Canada was just that. You didn't find that as widespread as in the U.S. as we knew what the media told you, what was published, what other people told you, what it was like. But I still took the chance and came to the U.S. Why? Because I met this woman. And I thought, okay, and she's white, so she can help me through any problems I might have. So,
So she was from Dallas?
not really from, but she was living here for like 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, she came from eastern U.S., northern Oklahoma, Dallas.
But American.
But American.
White American.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And eventually, though, in 1984, when we got together, we got married on April 1st. What day is that?
April's Fool.
April Fool's Day.
April Fools. So nobody took us seriously. Everybody thought, no, wait a minute, wait.
You always operate that way, surprising everybody.
I had surprises all the time in my life with people. So, but it was a fun thing, a fun time. And I really ignored a lot of what I thought could have been potential situations that could have affected our union with my wife and I. And we got through pretty well. Again, I had a lot of experience dealing with people in my committees, dealing with customers, clients from all over the world. So it wasn't difficult for me to talk my way and assert myself, So I think that helped. What do you think?
Big time.
I think it helped. Well, but a curious little thing happened between 82 on my vacation to Dallas and 84. A soccer team from
There
Dallas,
you go with the soccer again. No, keep going, keep going.
they came to Toronto for a tournament. And I was already involved with the club up there with my son, who both of them were playing in the club.
Wait,
And
was it the Andre? Which
not Andre, my oldest boy.
your oldest boy?
Yeah, it's Mark.
Mark.
Yeah. So he was already heavily immersed into football because of me. I coached, I taught him how to play, and then I coached the clubs he played with. So this team from Dallas came up for the tournament. I was coaching in the tournament, and this coach and his son stayed with me. It's something you call billeting. When you have foreign teams coming into your country, the teams house the kids, right?
Like a hospitality thing,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
So they came for the week, for the tournament. So I had this coach's son in my house. So the coach and I, obviously, we became close friends.
Yeah, bonded, right?
He saw Mark play in that tournament. And Mark was 14 going on 15. Recruited him to come to Dallas and go to his high school, with the intention of getting him into college later on. And when he knew what I did in the soccer world, decided to offer me the opportunity to coach as his assistant at SMU.
Wow. Southern Methodist University.
Southern Methodist University.
That, for those watching and listening, this is one of the most prestigious universities in Dallas.
Yeah, in the DFW area.
Yeah. So that sounded very attractive to me. So here I was making the move from engineering technology and using my background and interest in soccer to move to Dallas and create a new career. I was 42.
It's always early
New
for a new
start.
career, right? 42? Why not?
And we did.
So you just
We
moved to
made the move.
Dallas.
Yep.
Where did you stay
I-
when you came to Dallas? Which part?
I had already rented a house in Dallas.
Close to downtown?
Yeah. And no, in Richardson.
Oh, Richardson. Okay.
The
Ah,
high
that
school
makes-
was in Richardson.
Mhm.
It was the most prestigious high school in Texas. The coach that recruited us to come was the coach at the high school. They had won state 2 years prior, back to back. So we were coming into a pretty good situation. He said, if you need a place to stay, get a house in Richardson so your son can come to this high school in Richardson. So we did it.
That's a good advice.
Did both your sons attend Richardson?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And both of them played in Richardson. Both of them were what you might call Olympic development caliber as they were growing up, at different ages, of course, because they're 6 years apart in age. So my girlfriend, who I was engaged to now, got the house, took the boys, and when everything was finalized for me to leave Canada, I moved to Dallas and lived with them.
So, I'm curious. You've lived in many different cities,
Uh-huh.
in different countries.
Uh-huh.
no? So, what was the easiest place to, adopt? And
I tell you, Canada was, in the initial stage, the best move I made to be able to adapt to the culture and the people and the lifestyle. Also because they had a lot of West Indian people living in every city I lived in, especially in Toronto. And then traveling to Montreal to play in tournaments and stuff, I met people from back home. So it was pretty easy to adapt.
what about Dallas?
Moving
was
to
that?
Dallas, I depended a lot on my present wife back then, and my sister was living in Dallas as well. So she helped me, immerse myself into the
So
culture.
they made it easy, right?
Yeah, they took me to the nightclubs and took me to restaurants and so on. So I met a lot of people, and the soccer community I was introduced to helped. Because I met people who looked at me and thought, I need you. So I didn't have to go and ask people to become a part of their community. They adopted me. So that became a
Would-
little bit easier.
Would that be the case if you didn't have your sister here, if you haven't met the girl who's now your wife? Would it be harder? What do you think?
It may have been.
You
but-
would have made it like
but
the same way?
But I had connections with somebody involved with soccer as well. The coach that came to Toronto. He adopted me as part of his family. And then I ended up being the head coach of a club in Dallas and hired him to come and play. So we kept that connection, you know. And it was always something involving soccer or football, like we call it, that kept me engaged, connected, immersed in the community, understanding the people, and moving on.
It sounds like, even though it wasn't the Olympics, it's still close enough to your dream of playing soccer football that you still got to do it even through all the trouble and the work and school and moving around. You still had football with you and it was part of your passion. So that's amazing.
And I think that was not only your way to vent through the business part of your life. It was a passion, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't just I need to vent, so I need to decompress, so I need to play some soccer and coach something. You wanted really to be involved with that, right?
That's a good way of interpreting everything, because
but at the same time, it was working as your...
Yes, and I was earning money coaching.
Doing what you love.
Yeah. But in the interim, there was another company while I was here in 84. I needed something more, I would say, like back then you want something more secure, a job. Coaching was fine. I'm making money, I'm having fun, but it's all evening time. So you need something during the day to carry you through. Well, I delivered pizza. I had daytime hours. So I went in a pizza shop, learned how to make pizzas, and then they needed a driver. I delivered the pizzas.
Because why not?
Why not?
It's a one-man band over here.
And then we had pizzas for dinner.
Multiple bands. One man, multiple bands.
At one time I was delivering pizza for 4 hours in the morning from about 9 to 1. And then I went and worked with a company that was doing examination of insurance. So you call people up and check their information to their insurance policies, make sure everything's correct. I did that for 3-4 hours. And then I went and worked with Time Life, the people that publish all these magazines and books and stuff. I worked with them and won prizes. But that didn't last long. That was just interim. A young company in Richardson was starting up an energy efficient lighting business.
Sounds right up your alley.
Well, it was part of my job in Canada. I studied lighting in college. So the company I went and worked for, we made outdoor lighting products. Every airport, every shopping center around North America had lighting equipment that we manufactured.
Wow.
So I knew the lighting industry.
In Richardson?
Oh, yeah. No, not Richardson. This was in Canada.
Oh, that was in Canada.
Yeah.
Sorry.
During my time there with this company. Yeah. So I knew the lighting industry well. So also thinking, if I go to the US, Dallas, there's an office in Richardson, I might get a job with the lighting division. But it was only sales. I didn't want to just be a salesman. I was too technical. So eventually this company was advertising. And this is middle of 1984, August, September. I came down in February, only depending on football in the meantime. So I took these part-time jobs. When I saw this position open, I thought, hey, let me get him a call. So when I went in, it made me a manager.
Why be a salesman when you can be a manager, right?
Yeah. And they just said, okay, since you know all about the lighting, you could teach us. I said, okay. You know those spiral fluorescent tubes you buy today? That is like the 3rd or 4th generation of energy efficient lighting that's used in commerce and residential areas and even some industrial areas. The original energy efficient compact fluorescent was a twin tube.
Twin tube?
2 tubes side by side with the base that you plugged into a transformer.
Oh, wow.
I sold them. In 1984, no one knew what they were in Dallas.
They were the OG, the original generation for these Fluorescent bulbs.
My clients were Trammell Crow, Lincoln Property Company, Vantage, you name any large industrial or commercial property. And I sold them those tubes that retrofitted all of their lighting. You know the Anatole Hotel?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
In Stemmons.
Trammell Crow owned that. All the buildings on the opposite side, Trammell Crow owned them.
Well, Trumbull owns half of Dallas.
Yeah.
This is Chase Building.
We've
His-
worked with Tremel Crow.
Oh, yeah,
couple
of course.
times, Yeah.
His daughter,
We've been to his house.
We've been to his house. Yeah, it's beautiful. Oh my
his
God.
daughter Lucy
Well, sorry.
used to own
One of his houses.
one of his houses. His daughter used to own North Park Center.
Wow.
All the lights in the hotel room in the Anatole, all the lamps in every room, every light fixture in their conference rooms, I sold them the energy efficient tubes to go there.
By the way, the Anadolu is the biggest hotel in Dallas.
Exactly. So eventually, when he hired our company to retrofit all of his hotels, we had hotels in Philadelphia, Orlando, the Bahamas, and we did it all. He was my client.
Quick question. Can I come and work for you? You're retired.
I'm retired. I'm retired. But so that's really how things moved along and how I transpose myself from one thing to another. It's all based on a connection, no pun intended. Working in the electrical industry is all connections. You have to do anything.
No, that was pun intended.
You're punny. You're punny.
It's all about
And
connections.
that is what I think life has to be like.
Yeah, but you have
know?
to create the connections.
Yeah.
The connections
Well,
won't just
well, no.
appear in your doorstep. You have to go there. You
Well,
have-
I'll tell you what though.
and you obviously went
Sometimes
for
you
it.
have to open yourself up to make a connection. I didn't do that with my wife.
Oh yeah, that was pure luck, right?
It touched one look.
Destiny.
It just took one look, and that was the connection. It wasn't anything physical or anything spiritual. Maybe it was spiritual, but that was the connection. It was just from here to there.
That was the timing, basically, that you just
Yeah.
sitting in the same room.
Exactly. One day I told her, I said, I ran so much wires from one place to another and from one piece of equipment to another. I said, this is the shortest wire I ever run.
Like 3 feet.
And it was even before microwave or wireless.
And y'all are connected.
And we were connected.
It was Bluetooth.
And even today,
Low power Bluetooth.
I still don't know what Bluetooth really means. I wonder about this thing,
Yeah, who named that?
Who
Who's
named
like,
that?
we have this wireless transmitting device. We should call it Bluetooth.
Yeah.
There is actually an explanation for that. I keep forgetting, but I'll find it and I'll post it on the comments.
Okay.
I would like that. You can help me. And like I said before, the longer and the more you live, the more you learn and find things out. Because look at the change from the time I'm telling you about, where we used a lot of physical things to connect to and with, to the lighting industry and the changes that went through. And today, look what it's become.
Wireless?
You can screw one of those bulbs into anything, and it works. What we did back then is we retrofitted the lighting fixtures to make this fit. And sometimes it didn't. But then that's where your engineering come in, and you have to look at it and say, well, okay, well, instead of a globe like that, why don't we, with a filament, why don't we cut the globe right at the neck and fit the twin tube inside a glass globe? And that became the light. So today, I've been retired since 2002.
So it's been 20 years.
Yeah,
21 now.
well, and I spent 16 years as a fitness instructor in Dallas.
And a gym or?
Yeah, not only one,
Oh,
22.
22 different gyms?
I became their nutrition specialist.
And you were doing this just for fun, right? Just to
no,
have something to do
it was
during
it
your
was
time?
partly a change in career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I developed a lot of the personal trainers that they needed,
Mm-hmm.
because I took all those courses myself, changing from electrical engineering into coaching, from coaching into fitness.
Body engineer.
Yeah. So I developed a lot of the fitness training, and both my sons became personal trainers.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah, we'll meet one of your sons in another episode. He's coming up soon.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I spent 16 years with that company. They were the largest in America.
Oh, which one?
Bali Total Fitness.
Oh, Bali?
Yeah.
I know Bali, yeah. Of course.
Well, I was their regional supervisor here. So I used to travel to Kansas City, St. Louis, Oklahoma, and Texas, all of Texas, and do training in the clubs for the employees. And I started out, of course, as an instructor, moved to a manager, managed clubs, then I became a supervisor. Then when they developed their own nutritional line, I took over training the staff on the nutrition, how to apply the nutritional products, what they're for, teach the staff so they could sell it.
The supplements, right?
Supplements. There is a little episode that I didn't tell you all about, which probably allowed me to be someone that could lend, what you might say, assistance to the carnival that takes place in Toronto.
Okay.
Because in Trinidad, I started out exhibiting an attitude and a behavior to be a participant since I was 4 years old.
4? Okay.
Back then in Trinidad, nobody under 12 was parading the streets in carnival time. So I was the first. And I did that for many years until I left. So I always participated in carnival in some way. In some years more formally than others. Other years I just didn't want to do it anymore, so I just was part of the music and the revelry and the fun and partying. But then I also, at the time, was designing costumes. And
Completely different project again?
yeah, and that was part of my upbringing, because my stepfather, besides being a competitive bodybuilder, he was a competitive ballroom dancer. And
At the same time?
yes, and
Okay.
he was a barber. And I grew up with him from the time I was about 6. My mom went to live with him because she and my dad were never married. But that's beside the point. That happens in Trinidad all the time, forever. You didn't have to be married to have kids. Have your kids grow up, do what they want, and you do what you want, and you all remarry and that kind of thing. It's common. But I didn't follow that. You can tell.
Yeah, of course.
So my mom connected with this guy, and they brought me into this carnival thing. He wasn't the first. My aunt met a guy who was deep into carnival development, costuming, and portraying. They got me involved. I was 4.5.
4.5.
Yeah. So from then, I was into carnival depicting American Indians. Costume. Based on American Indian, Canadian Indians, yeah. And competing. And learning to speak the language.
That's impressive. So, like, what's the next gig? What's the next project coming up? What do you have lined up?
Good question.
You do have something.
I'll tell you what the next gig is.
And
See
then
what-
and then I want to ask
Okay,
something more
that's fine.
about soccer. So
That's fine. You all are doing something that I would think I foresaw this as a next step, because I didn't have anything else to motivate me to start expressing myself from my experiences. So I started doing my memoirs. So I'm writing.
So you're writing right
Yeah.
now. You're gonna get
But
published?
I took about 6 months off. I haven't written anything. But in the meantime, I am recalling things and recording little bits and pieces on my phone so I could eventually expand on them.
I think he's going to publish it because he used to work for a publishing company, didn't you?
Yeah,
Well,
right.
this is it, you know.
You can call your old connections.
And my wife is behind me to do it. My son,
Mhm.
my daughter, she got me started.
Okay.
She gave me the outline how to get things done. So I documented a lot of it up until the 80s. But from the 80s on, this is like 30-something years I haven't. But it's all here.
Well, what I would do, if I was in your place, I would make chapters, and then I would sell it as a mini series.
See, that is something else that I had thought about, and only now hearing it from someone like you, it makes me see that it's viable.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
kidding?
It's viable. Because I was putting it all together. And I did it in decades. I did one decade from 42 to 52, another decade to 62, 72 to 82. And I called it Decades of Change.
So here's your seasons. Every decade is a season.
Yeah.
Right.
And every decade contributed to the next. Everything I did in one decade, you could see it helping me form my background for the next.
You want to produce another podcast? Here's your premise.
So that's where we are. And so that period of involvement with Carnival started in Trinidad. When I ended up in Toronto in 1971, I started doing costumes for smaller productions within the Carnival in Toronto. I knew people that were doing it, so I helped. Even my son Andre, he participated with costumes I made.
Do you have pictures?
Yeah?
Pictures of him in
Yeah,
costumes?
I have a
Oh, we're
couple.
getting those.
I
We're
have a
definitely
couple.
getting those.
And my wife at the time, she was a party girl, so she liked that too. So
There you go.
it'd be all fit, you know. So that was another period in my life that really helped me be able to become more creative with things and ideas, and taking an idea and expanding on it, and you know, connecting with others. So yeah, so I did that for about 20 years.
Awesome. I want. Go ahead.
You know, Vernon, we were talking before the show about music.
Yeah.
And I was asking about, you know, what's the music like in Trinidad? Because he was showing me some of your brothers is a musician, and he used to travel and play, and he was actually one of the innovative recording artists of capturing very unique locations and sounds of their traveling band and everything. It's really cool. It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. He has a channel on YouTube, and he passed away a year ago.
Yeah, tragically. But we were talking about the music, and I learned something about merengue, which is like Spanish. So like we're in Trinidad. It's in the Caribbean, and I'm listening to the sound. I was like, man, it's just a lot of steel drum, but it's a lot of this kind of like dancey, almost salsa like percussion. And what was it that you told me about how like East Indians and Africans? It's the merge of those two sounds, the rhythm, the beat of the music,
Right.
put it together, and then if you take that Trinidad music and you add Spanish influence, Venezuela, that became merengue. So merengue is the product of Trinidad
Of that
music.
type, that music,
That's
and it's blended
mix.
together.
a very interesting mix.
Yeah.
And my brother, like I was into sports, my brother was into music from the time he was little. So he ended up being an accomplished, a virtuoso with the steel pan. You ever seen it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, he did that. And traveled with the best orchestra from the island ever, all over the world. And traveled with concert pianists and playing background music and arranging. And he arranged music for those steel orchestras in Trinidad.
Wow.
Yeah. Because they all hear music, they hear a song, and it needs to be translated. And he would go there and teach each player parts of the arrangement that he composed. And he would do it.
Very interesting.
That's really interesting. I would love to talk about the food in Trinidad and in Canada, as we were talking about
And the States.
And the States. There's some weird food all around the world. What is...
Yeah, there is a lot of weird foods around the world. And funny, my wife and I were talking just a couple of days ago, and she said, what is one food you really would not eat? And I said, sauerkraut.
Sauerkraut.
Yeah.
I don't know what's that.
It's like a German
It's a German dish they make with cabbage.
cabbage.
Oh, yeah, I've tried it. Yeah, I've tried it in Germany.
And I said that. And there's another food I will never eat, not even at home. It's macaroni, mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese, you don't like it?
No, because I do something different
Oh, what do you do?
with mac and with
Hold
cheese.
on, you're a
But-
chef?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm gonna compete because I cook too.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think you heard my son saying, Dad, you gotta go home and cook, right? Because my daughter is coming over with her boyfriend, I think, and in-laws.
And of course,
So
he's gonna
we
make
went
the
out
food.
last night and bought the stuff I needed, and both of them, "Are you sure this is all you need? You don't need any more? No, you okay?" So I marinated my meat last night. To be
what do
able
you
to-
use to marinate?
That's where the secret of Trinidad
Ah,
cooking is.
he's not revealing.
I'll give you
You tell us after the show.
after the
Yeah,
show.
yeah, yeah.
I'll give you a hint. Trini cooking, real Trini cooking, is a little bit of that, a pinch of this, some of that, and try that. Put that in there too. That's how we cook. That's Trinidad.
No measurement, no.
That's Trinidad flavoring. You will get people giving you a recipe, but when you put that recipe together, it's different from how I would do it, even though it's the same ingredients. So that's the secret to Trini cooking. And the flavors is what you bring up from here. That's the flavor you get.
What's an iconic Trinidad recipe, a food or a plate?
There's something called callaloo. Callaloo is an original term given to something where you put a lot of stuff together and make a dish. It's basically a soup. And one of the main ingredients in there is crab. Fresh crab.
It's like a ceviche or some type of
No.
No.
Like a gumbo.
It's like a gumbo, but it's made up of different ingredients. Okra, a lot of okra.
Oh.
Yeah. Hot Congo peppers or ghost peppers, spinach, salted pig meat. And
Ham or bacon?
you can use them in the event you don't have the real thing.
Okay.
But that gives it a little bit of a saltiness flavor, and the crab meat gives it that seafood flavor. And I just made some a couple of weeks ago for them. We just finished it yesterday. And I cooked that for Christmas. That goes on rice. Right?
You're making me hungry.
Well, true. But we don't
It's
talk
time.
about food. But that's one of the most iconic things. One more thing I'll tell you quickly. A very easy dish is what we call peas and rice, and the original name is pilau. That's French.
Pilau.
Pilau. It's peas, meat, and rice put together with seasonings. Can't tell you what they are. Right? And you
What
put
kind of
that
meat?
together
What kind of
and you
meat?
cook it. It comes out in it's one pot and it's all brown. It's a special peas and it's parboiled rice, not soft rice. So it's grainy.
And what type of meat? What kind of meat?
Any
Any?
kind.
Like beef?
Some people like chicken,
Uh-huh.
some other people like beef.
Mhm.
My mother used to like pork.
Okay.
So you could use any kind of meat.
Mhm.
But it's what you do with the meat prior to adding the other ingredients that makes that dish pop.
So you put some Jack Daniel's whiskey on there.
We
Rum.
we drink rum.
Bacardi?
There you go.
Nope.
No?
Bacardi is not good rum.
Captain Morgan.
Nope. Jamaican rum is not good rum.
Okay.
What is good rum?
Good rum come from Trinidad and Tobago. The best rum you could buy anywhere is from Trinidad and Tobago. It originated there. Rum was made into rum in Trinidad. All these other islands and countries that make rum, it's fake. Like Trump used to say, it's fake rum. You go to Specs, if you want to buy a good Trinidad rum, ask them if they don't have it for Angostura, that's Spanish, white oak. It's a very clear rum like a Bacardi, white. Or you can get the more expensive one, which is amber colored, and that's called just Angostura oak, royal oak.
Interesting.
You would never taste rum like that anywhere else. Just like how if you want good Scotch, you buy Johnny Walker, black or double black. If you want good rum, Trinidad rum, made by Angostura.
Gonna get some shots here.
I'll have to try it. Yeah, maybe I should have come prepared.
Right? You had a question about soccer.
Yes. World Cup.
World Cup.
Did you like the result?
No.
No? You wanted France to win?
No.
Well.
Who else? Brazil.
Brazil?
Yeah. A lot of the soccer I grew up learning,
Mhm.
and the moves and certain things I learned is Brazilian style.
Okay.
And we blended it with the Caribbean flair. So we don't call it Brazilian, we call it Caribbean or Trinidadian style. I wanted Brazil to win.
Brazil?
If not Brazil, France.
France? Okay.
Yeah.
Because this is the other part of your roots, right?
Yeah, well, kind of. Well, English.
England.
I could have voted for England too, but I didn't like the players they selected.
Mhm.
And as a coach, I had my own idea who they should have put on the team.
Mhm.
But yeah. That
So,
would be
typical
nice.
question, who's the best player of all times? Who's the GOAT? The greatest of all times?
There is no comparison
Pelé?
in that category. Pele is the only person that could come close to having the title.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you why. Pele, everything Pele did when he was a teenager is now being done by players who adopted it and put it into their, we might call repertoire,
Mm-hmm.
to make them become noticeable. So back then, during his career, and after, they're now doing it. So there's no comparison. So when people talk
Who's the
about
second best?
Huh?
Who's the second best?
Well, there's no
after that?
second.
There's no second.
No. If there's Pele as the one,
Mhm.
and I say the one, if that's him, there's nobody else. It's like saying, I didn't want to bring this up.
No, bring it up.
But it's like saying, if Jesus Christ was determined to be so and so, there's nobody else.
Mhm.
It's like that. But not really saying Pele is Jesus Christ, but in his world, it's like that. And I would say there's nobody second to me for what I've done. You get the point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because you can't find an actor to play those parts, even in your own career. The number of things I heard you say you did, I just, wow. And he's only 28. You know? Well, yeah, you all were marveling at me at 25 making the move I made. So we all did that in our time.
Mm-hmm.
And you
In
can't,
our way.
in our way. And you can't really determine that there's going to be another person that will come and duplicate this or replicate that. You know?
Mm-hmm.
No, you are unique in what you do, what you've done, what you're doing, what you plan to do. And anybody coming behind you, they're just going to repeat. Because what you did were set as a standard. That's why Pele, everything he did, is now being replicated by other people. So they can't even be second.
They're copycats.
Yeah.
They're copying the original,
Yeah.
the one.
Right. And it's that kind of argument I have with anybody in any discussion regarding life.
I see.
I think that's how the world is designed, and that's how we've got to perpetuate things, and make sure it doesn't change much. Because so much of what was done before was correct. So who are we to just come along and just say, oh no, let's change the street name to this because of that? Come on, give me a break. So you're going to change the name of Africa into what? You're going to change the name of...
Wakanda.
Huh?
Wakanda.
Yeah. So we have another holiday in December. It's called Kwanzaa. Who made that up? Some guy in New York who thinks he is from such and such and such. I am not like that. We are different. So don't come tell me so-and-so date is Kwanzaa. You get the point?
Totally.
Right? I respect you guys. I love my visit to Athens. I immerse myself in the restaurant with the people because that's what Athens is about.
Did you like the city?
I want to go back again because I enjoyed the people I met.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting down talking to them around food.
Yeah,
The owners of the restaurant, the woman who owned the restaurant, her daughter served me. That's what I want to enjoy. That's what the world should be like when you visit places. See? I've never been to Cuba.
It's never too late for a trip to Cuba.
But I've understood and enjoyed Spanish life. And the closest to me in culture and lifestyle and weather and ambience is Cozumel. Closer to what I grew up in Trinidad experiencing. So you find that I want to go to Cozumel as often as I could, to the extent that I have a condo there.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Are we invited?
Yeah.
Do you have your passport?
But this is it too. You're going to have your passport. But yeah, so I look forward to going to Cozumel every opportunity. But incidentally, February 9th, my wife and I are going to Trinidad for a month, carnival time.
Oh, there you go, of course.
Breaking out the costumes.
Carnival time. I'm not going to participate in costuming and stuff. I'm just going to go down, listen to the music,
enjoy,
party,
right?
go to shows, listen to the steel drums.
Uh-huh.
One night, 10 bands performing, one after the next.
Wow.
And we sit there and listen and drink.
The original rum.
One night, that's all we're going to do. There's another night they're going to have only calypsos.
Oh, cool.
Singers on stage, one after the next. And that's what I do with vacation. That's why I don't like to go on cruises.
Mm-hmm.
The cruise entertains so many different people with shows they produce. I go back to what I help produce.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
It's more authentic that way, too.
And then you wear shorts all day, right? Shorts and t-shirt. And then when you're not in shorts and t-shirt, you're in your bathing trunks because you're at the beach.
That's even better.
That's even better. And then you're eating all these exotic foods.
Say that recipe again, the soup.
I'll give it to you. I'll write
Okay.
it. I know you're very curious.
Because I cook too.
You cook too.
Yeah.
Well, if you're from Athens or Greece, you got to be.
You have to.
Got to be in food. The cocoa in Trinidad has developed to be the cocoa that the largest chocolatier in Switzerland is buying it
Mm-hmm.
to make their chocolates
Wow.
for worldwide.
Distribution.
The cocoa.
It has to do with I think the elevation, the humidity,
The climate, the
temperature.
climate.
You got it.
The climate.
You just like the coffee in Jamaica
Mm-hmm.
is unrivaled.
Yeah.
Elevation, climate,
Humidity.
I
humidity,
think
everything.
the tobacco in Cuba.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And each one of those islands have its own little thing. You can't get fresh original spices anywhere in the world except Grenada.
Really?
You know where Grenada is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Every island has something.
Yeah, like Afghanistan has saffron, right?
Yeah, like that. Last night, my wife was talking, she was looking up something about a remedy for ADHD. And saffron is one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah?
Mm.
It's amazing. So
Uh-huh.
so you eat the saffron, and does it have like
You make it like a tea.
a time period where like I don't have ADHD for the next 3 hours because I drank the tea? Or is it kind of like it cures it?
It's an ongoing thing. Yeah, it's a process.
Okay.
And then you eventually rid yourself of that, or you minimize.
Now,
the
but I have to
effects.
drink saffron the rest of my life? Or
Not necessarily.
No.
They did a treatment plan
Mm.
for like so many months, and then they tested and saw the difference. Saffron is the main ingredient in curry
Mm-hmm.
from India. So the East Indian influence in Trinidad, the foods we make with curry, is saffron in there.
And it's very expensive.
And
The
I
saffron, the
cook,
flour is very expensive.
I cook a mean curry. Better than any curry you can find in any restaurant anywhere. Because of the way that curry is made and the way it's used in the dish.
We're gonna start off the cameras pretty soon and we're gonna go eat, but keep
Okay.
going.
No, I would love, Panos, if you can bring up the topic of like influencing some of our viewers, some of people who haven't made the leap to come to America and to go after their dream. I guess, do you have some words for people who are interested in coming to America and going after their dream? What words would you share to inspire them?
Initially, a dream, yes. A lot of people don't really interpret what the dream is. They may have a desire to do something, or they have a goal to reach. And I would say you can tailor that to however you want, but you surround yourself with the right people, get yourself into the right society, and understand where your place is in that situation. So you don't step out and step on anybody, and you also accommodate and adapt to whatever the culture is offering you, so you can blend it with your own.
Wise words.
From a very wise man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we ask everybody the same thing when we getting close to wrap up. So this project is called Freedom or Bust,
Okay?
which is also
Hey.
a Greek saying. In
Uh-huh.
Greek we say eleftheria ή θάνατος, which means freedom or bust.
Right.
So everybody has a different feel of the word freedom. What do you interpret as freedom?
I think, yeah, you're right that the word freedom means a lot of different things to people based on their struggle. So they think that freedom would be, well, I want to say and do what I want to do, or I want to live where I want to live, I want to travel where I want to travel, but there are always restrictions, like you ask about passport. You want to go somewhere, you have to have a passport, right? So freedom to me would be then, I can relate to my own freedom and hope that that can be understood by others, so they can then compare that to what they think their freedom is. And in my sense, it's to be able to have done the things that I've done, where you understand what the challenges might be, but you also seek the ways to overcome those challenges. And it may be adaptation. So you adapt. But adapting doesn't mean you're changing your core values. It means maintaining your core values, holding on to your traditions and your upbringing and your culture, as long as you don't step on toes, because then you're infringing on their freedom. So if you can do that and encourage others to merge or amalgamate, then they can enjoy their freedom, because they'll be using your understanding or interpretation and helping themselves build theirs. And it's as simple as I could make it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it is a very difficult thing in this world today to consider what your freedom is in terms of everybody else's. Every country is changing, growing differently. The politics is different. The education systems are different in other countries. You got to hold on to yours and grow from there. So that would be the way I would explain it.
That's great. So we want to thank you very much for taking the time today. It is a Sunday, so we're actually holding you from your cooking
From
right
my
now. So we're gonna let you go pretty soon. Again, thank you very much. And I'm guessing we're gonna interview Andre, your younger son,
That'd be great.
pretty soon.
I think he can fill in some of the gaps for you.
If you can call it
Anything
an
I left
interview.
out, anything I missed, he might be able to fill in those gaps. But it's been a really good ride. And meeting people like you today, it just adds something else to my experience.
That's a big compliment actually for us.
We're looking forward to your book, or maybe hopefully a series of books being released.
Or maybe we produce the miniseries.
We'll see. But a lot of exciting stuff in the future.
It is very interesting. There are a lot of high points and there's some low points. But overall, I think it's interesting.
Oh,
Because
that's
of the
not even
variety of things that I covered, and to show you how they connect.
Absolutely. We're really looking forward to that.
Vernon, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. I didn't expect it to go this long. I didn't expect you all to need so much, but I'm glad to have had the opportunity to share with you to the extent that you wanted to listen.
Thank you very much, brother. We're really excited for this. It was amazing.
Thank
All
you.
the best. Have a blessed day.
That was wild for me. I don't know, how do you feel about that? But for me, that's probably one of our best episodes so far. So I want to thank you very much. Go ahead.
Yeah, each episode just keeps getting better. I just keep getting really just interesting people on the show. So make sure to subscribe, smash that like notification bell, so you know next time we drop another really interesting episode like this one.
And here's the thing that I want to add. I know that some of you are watching. You do also have very, very interesting stories, just like Vernon's. So if you want to share that story, just drop us a comment and we'll get in touch. We'll come to you and we will sit down, have a nice hang. I don't want to call this interviews. This is a hang, basically. So yeah, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you very much for watching again, and we'll see you on the next one. This is Freedom or Bust.